All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining. This is a really important topic for us, and we're very passionate about this topic. And if you've been to our webinars before, you know that we follow a very specific agenda, which will continue today. And we'll start with a little update on our webinar series. We're going to talk about the subject itself, a little bit of background on why this subject is important. We'll do a quick poll question on the subject, and this gives us a little bit of framework as to where you are on this subject with your company. Then we'll get into the key performance indicators, which is the actual topic for today, and part of that will be to go through some examples and a live demonstration in TopBuilder, and then we'll wrap up with a Q&A. And so Lana will be watching the chat box, and if you have questions, just go ahead and put them in the chat, and we'll get to them at the end of the webinar. Okay, so quick update on the webinar series. Again, we're trying to do these about 3 a month, and they'll always be on Thursdays at this time. We try to focus on educational items and industry best practices. Occasionally, we'll focus on a TopBuilder feature. A lot of these are at the request of our customers, so that's kind of the practice that we follow. And then next week we have a very interesting topic, which is part of our online sales counselor package, which is appointment scheduling, and that includes the calendar integration. So please register for that one, and then of course if you register and you can't attend, we'll send you the recording with the link to download the presentation. We always send out the recordings the day after, so we'll be sending you a recording tomorrow with the link to download the presentation and to watch our webinar on YouTube. Okay, and then you can always go to topbuildersolutions.com webinars for our upcoming and past webinars. Okay, so the topic background. We're talking about key performance indicators today. This is everybody has kind of an opinion, I guess, about what a key performance indicator is. As a CRM provider, we're very passionate about this subject. It's very important to us. And the way we look at it is it's vital to the success of any sales and marketing program. And that's why we're talking about it. And that's why we include this in TopBuilder CRM. And the way we kind of define key performance indicators, it's measuring your activities, your sales and marketing activities that are aligned up towards a corporate goal, a sales goal. And the point is you're measuring your activities that help you accomplish those goals, which become your key performance indicators. So that's kind of how we define it. For what it's worth in this webinar. And key performance indicators are very important if done correctly to help you identify problems with your sales and marketing activities before it's too late, before you get to the end of the year, end of the quarter, and you've missed your goals. The key performance indicators, if done correctly, will help you identify that early so you can take action. All right. One important factor about key performance indicators allows your sales and marketing and your management teams to work together to accomplish a common goal. That's not always the case. Sales is pointing the finger at marketing, marketing's pointing the finger at sales. I'm not saying you guys do that, but it does happen. And then management teams upset and confused, and it just doesn't work. But having a common set of KPIs and goals helps the teams work together and connects everybody through the KPIs. One important factor to understand about KPIs is it can become a tool to communicate with owners, investors, management teams. If you're going to go borrow money, raise money, this says we know what we're doing, and this is how we're going to get there. And it really helps with that communication if you're trying to communicate your forecast and your plans. And sort of similar to number 5, it is a prediction of where you're going what is your goal? But most importantly, how am I going to get there? Or how are you going to get there? That's the key. And that goes with number 5, communicating to management. How are we going to get to our numbers? How are we going to reach these goals? Okay. And then another key factor in KPIs, or key performance indicators, is it's often, frankly, quite difficult to track. Okay. And so a lot of people are doing it manually. The poll questions about this, actually, and some people are doing it Excel. It's very difficult and time consuming to manage and to track. And so that's, again, why we're talking about today. And I guess lastly, and this is normal for our webinars, we want to make sure everybody understands that we do these things ourselves. And so we follow these best practices. So we know it works, and we know how to communicate that back to you. Okay, now this is a complicated topic, so you're gonna have to bear with us. It's a little bit analytical, it's very technical. But if you need help, please reach out to us at the end of the webinar or through our website, and we'd be glad to have a consultation with you to help you understand this a little bit better and maybe help you set it up, certainly in TopBuilder. So keep that in mind. I'm going to talk fast, and I have to stay within the 35-minute time frame. But again, if you need help or want some explanation, please let us know. Okay, so I am going to jump into the poll question really quickly. So pay attention to your screen. I'm going to go ahead and launch the poll question. We only have one. And the poll question is, how do you currently track KPIs? So go ahead and fill that out. Give it a couple minutes. We have a lot of people on the webinar today, so we're going to try to give everybody time to respond. About half of you have responded. Okay. Give it a couple seconds, and we'll go ahead and close the poll. All right. So this is interesting. About half of you are tracking it in Excel or manually, and then the other half is you're tracking it in your CRM. And so let's see if that matches up the way we describe tracking key performance indicators in TopBuilder. But I'm glad you are doing it, at least. Nobody said we don't track it. So that's good. That talks about how important, or that speaks to how important this is. Okay, so the way we'll go through this is we'll give you a little bit of background and the approach that we take with the KPIs. We'll talk about how to develop your KPIs. And you'll have heard some of this before in previous webinars, but we're going to go into a little bit more detail here. We're going to provide some examples, and then we'll demonstrate it for you. And we have plenty of time to get through all this within the 35-minute time frame. Okay, so the approach to KPIs is obviously the development of the KPIs. And again, what we're doing is we're defining what activities lead to a particular goal. And that is a process that we follow. It's very analytical and methodical, so to speak, but it's effective. And done right, it leads to a really good set of KPIs for your year, potentially. We'll break down the KPIs into several categories. Sales is obvious, and we can look at sales from a couple of perspectives. How many sales, and then the revenue, so you can look at dollars or quantities. Conversions is a huge part of your KPIs, which will lead to sales. How am I converting my online web visitors, my online leads, so to speak? How am I converting the traffic that walks into a model? How am I converting my visitors' appointments to the model? How am I converting pricing? Conversions is very important because they lead to, bottom line sales. And then, of course, you're tracking your marketing. And this marketing, of course, is the very top end of the funnel, where you're generating leads and converting them to hopefully qualified leads, but that all ties into sales as well. And so at the top end of the funnel, we're looking at marketing activities as a category. And then there's something called activities, which we're not really going to cover today. It doesn't directly lead to sales necessarily. It indirectly leads to sales. But activities can be things like follow-up times. How quickly do we respond to online leads? How quickly do we follow up on website walk-in traffic? That's part of KPIs. It's hard to tie that directly to a sale, but it is a KPI that many of us want to track. Okay, now you can also break down your KPIs a little bit further into time frames. Most people look at things annually. That has to be a component of it. But then you can take your annual goals and break it down into quarterly or monthly goals. And many of us are seasonal, so that does make sense. Especially, summertime is time to sell more homes typically. And then you can set KPIs and tie them to individuals, the agent involved, or you can break it down by community and of course the company itself. And then finally, you can break down KPIs into your online marketing, where you're breaking down your traffic into individual sources or channels, your organic, your pay-per-click, your social media, so on and so forth. Okay, so bear with me. We're going to get into the fun part here in a second. So we're going to begin with a stated goal. 200. We're going to sell 200 homes a year. So that's how we're going to begin the development process. We're going to use historical data on conversion rates and traffic. What does our funnel look like year over year, month over month, to determine what our historical conversion rates look like, to develop a goal, basically to develop a funnel, which is the endpoint goal at the bottom of the funnel of 200 homes a year. Okay. And then the conversion rates become part of your KPIs, of course, like we already talked about. All right. So this is a pretty simple example of how we'll develop our KPIs, starting with the very bottom of the funnel and saying, okay, our sales goal for the year. And we talk about these in other webinars, but what we're going to do today, which is a little different, is these are going to become KPIs. Okay. So we're going to start with a goal. Our goal is we're going to sell 200 homes a year. And historically, using the data we have in your CRM or other sources, we know that if we get to the point where we're submitting pricing to the customer, you get to the point where they're excited enough about the home, they qualify for the home, we'll convert about 50% of those to an actual sale. Okay, so our goal then for the year is to submit 400 proposals or 400 price agreements, if we could call it that. Okay, and to get to that point of 400 price agreements per year, then we need to have about 1,067. I know that's kind of granular there, but 1,067 qualified buyers to get to 400 pricing agreements, or 400 prices a year, submitting 400 prices a year. And so we gotta get basically a little over 1,000 qualified buyers. And some people will say, well, those buyers are anybody that we're going to qualify and book an on-site visit, or a visit with the model, a visit with the community, or a visit with the sales center, depending on type of builder you are. And if we're just looking at online leads now, and of course leads come from other places, if we're converting our online leads at a 4.5% rate, that means we need to get 23,000 unique visitors to our website. And that, of course, is marketing. Getting leads to our website, converting those leads to qualified leads is the marketing. You can get a lot of visitors to your website. That they call that convert from a Google Analytics standpoint, meaning they filled out a contact form. But if they're not qualified buyers, it's not helping you. So we've got to focus on that 1,067 number. Okay, so once we agree that this is what we need to reach those 200 sales a year, we can break out our KPIs a little bit more granular and break it out by community or sales agent, again, by time frames and months. And then what you might want to do, because all your leads are not going to come online. We all know that. So you'll break out the leads by what comes in online, and then break them out, by walk-ins, agent referrals, realtor referrals, homeowner referrals, or the other common ways that you get your leads, billboards, signage, or other things. But ultimately, what you need from these leads, I'm going to go backwards here real quick, is ultimately, sorry for this, we need that 1,067 qualified buyers from all our lead sources. And that's a very important KPI. Now you're going to watch that very closely, and you're going to watch very closely how am I converting those visits, homeowner visits or qualified buyers. And then you're going to be watching all of these very, very closely throughout the year to make sure you're on track to reach your goal. Okay. So let's go and see how all of this works. This is the fun part. Okay, so let's go ahead and show how we set up those KPIs. Okay, so I'm going to go into TopBuilder, and I'm going to say, I'm going to start at the very beginning of my funnel, and I apologize, I'm going to toggle around here a little bit, starting with the very top, and say, how many website visitors do I need to reach my goal? Okay, so I'm going to go in here and I'm going to go ahead and say, all right, well, this is in the category of marketing. I need, this is my KPI, essentially, unique website visitors. It's an annual goal. You can break this down into quarterly or monthly, and it's for the whole company. Now, again, you can break these down into individuals or into a community. For practical purposes and simplicity purposes for the webinar, we're just going to focus on the annual corporate goals. Okay, but if you do want to break it out by employee, you can do so, or by community, you can do so. Okay, so that's our website visitors, and then we can say, all right, well, from our website visitors, we want to generate 1,067 qualified leads. So that's how many leads get us to a qualified lead as a status. Again, we pick a metric, which is reaching a certain sales stage in the funnel. Qualified leads, how many of those do we need? 1,067. Okay, so now we've set up 2 KPIs, and the same goes for the remainder KPIs. Now, what we're going to do from a conversion rate perspective is we'll do the same thing. Okay, we're going to set up KPIs for a conversion. Okay, what are we looking at? Website visitor conversion rate. It applies to the whole company, and annually, what is the value of that? 4.5%. And let me just jump down to pricing to contracts. And I think you guys get the idea after I've gone through 4 examples here. But we're going to create another KPI for conversions. And what we're doing here is we're saying, I want to look at conversions between 2 sales stages or 2 statuses. Those sales stages are pricing or proposals to a contract. I want to convert those at 50%. That's the KPI we came up with. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and set that up. And now we have the KPIs set up. And again, this is a very high level example, but this is very, very useful and very, very effective. Okay, fantastic. So let's go back to the presentation. And we're going to set up the KPIs. And then we have dashboards that are set up to show you these KPIs essentially real time. And you can look at those by, if you're an individual agent or you're working in an individual community, you can look at these on your dashboard that way. So let's go ahead and jump over to that. I'm going to show you my dashboard here. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and pull up. The dashboard's empty. And I'm going to go ahead and add my KPIs to my dashboard. All right. So these are the KPIs we just defined in our analysis. And these are the KPIs we just configured in TopBuilder. And it's easier to show these, by the way, if you show the conversions broken out on the bottom and the actual numbers, either revenue or counts at the top. We've tried to intermix them, but it gets a little wonky and hard to read. So I think this is the best way to show them. We would love your feedback on this, by the way. And so what we're doing is we're showing you each one of these KPIs, and we're comparing those. I like to focus on the qualified lead number in our demos and in our webinars. And we're going to look at, okay, these are how many actual qualified leads we have achieved today at 19% of the way through the year. And by the way, we are looking at these annually right now. Okay. So I can change my settings to look at these annually, but right now I'm looking at these annually. And if you look at that one value, we should be today, 19% of the way through the year, we should have 123 qualified leads in our funnel at this point. We have 121, so we're close. So we're 11% on our way to the actual goal for the year, but we're very close. We're 98% of the way to our goal to date. So you're monitoring your progress every single day, essentially, which is fantastic. That way, you know if you start to fall behind. And then again, for the seasonal businesses, you can set up your KPIs to show things quarterly or monthly if you want, and break them out that way. But then we're also looking at our conversions that we've set up as well. And this is kind of why we want to break out conversions separately, is because it reads a little cleaner than combining the KPIs into one grid. But are we converting our website visitors? Yes, we are. Our goal is 5%, we're at 4%. Are we converting them to qualified buyers? Yes, we are. And are we converting them from a qualified buyer or from pricing submitted to an actual contract? A little behind, but very close. And so these numbers can compensate for themselves. You can convert more, qualified buyers to pricing and compensate for maybe less conversion rate from pricing to contract. But at the end of the day, you need to have 200 sales. So all of these numbers are pointing to that 200 sales number. Now, again, we can set up goals for individuals. And so you can say, well, I want to look at the goals that just apply to me or Lana. And these, I'm going to go ahead and look at my annual goals. You can apply those settings and say, okay, I'm just looking at my goals for the year, or I'm looking at my goals for the quarter, or I'm looking at my goals for the month. And that can be on your dashboard every single day. And then you know if you're ahead or behind, which is fantastic. One more thing I want to show you on these, and I didn't cover this in our example, but it's really important to show the online leads, especially for home builders. You want to look at, where are my online leads coming from? And you're breaking these down by individual channel. We talked about this last week in the webinar. Organic search, pay-per-click, referrals, all of these things. And then you set goals for each one of those. That's a little bit tougher than, coming from the top, higher level goals. But based on history, also, you might want to say, well, if we need 300 leads from our pay-per-click, well, you may need to increase your budget for that, right? So you can break those down that way and track them and then adjust accordingly. You may just say, well, we're not converting our pay-per-clicks, So we need to fix that. And if you are converting them and you're not getting as many from referral sources or social media, and you are converting the pay-per-clicks, then you can invest a little bit more money in that and still reach your goals. But all of this leads to that 200 homes per year. Okay, so that is the presentation for today. And I hope that made sense. I know I talked fast. I know it's very analytical, but KPIs, I mean, by nature are a very technical subject, but we're happy to sit down and help you with these, help you set them up, help you configure those within TopBuilder, and then of course connect you to your Google Analytics account if needed as well. So I'm going to switch back to the presentation, and we will go ahead and see if we have questions. Lana, do we?
Hey, Dave.
Yep.
Yes, we do have a question. Wondering if they need to have Google Analytics added on in order to measure these KPIs.
Yes, it helps. You don't need it for all of the KPIs, but if you're going to measure your online traffic and how it breaks out by pay-per-click, social media, yes, Google Analytics integration is necessary. You can key them in manually, I suppose. We would have to provide you with screens to do that, but you'll have to do it quite often, like every week. So you can do it manually, but it helps to have Google Analytics. And then Google Analytics will also break it down for you further. And I think I have a good example of that here. This may not show because of the demo data that we have. Let me see if I can do this for you. I can go into our Google Analytics report, and this will show you a breakdown. No, I don't have it here, but it'll break down your online leads by social media. You know, when we say social media, which social media conversions we talking about? Facebook, Instagram, you know, LinkedIn, or if we're talking about referral sources, you're breaking it down by your local MLS listings. You're breaking it out by Zillow, New Home Source, those kind of things. And then, well, I think that speaks for itself. And then the pay-per-click will show you which campaigns are converting as well. So that helps tremendous amount to have it connected to Google Analytics. So good question. All right. Good news is we had a big audience today and nobody dropped off. So I either did an okay job or I confused everybody. I can't tell sometimes. But the good news is we're here to help you with this. Lana and I are available to help coach you through this. If you want to see a demo of this again, we're happy to help you with that. So thank you again for attending. We're going to go ahead and stop the webinar, and we'll have the recording out for you tomorrow. Thank you.